Somebody said to me this morning, an hour and a half, really. The other good question was, do we get eats? Yes, an hour and a half, no, you're not going to get eats. So yes, it is a bit more than one expects from a clearing instructions. There's a bit of detail involved in it. And I remember doing this presentation for the first time in Johannesburg recently. And I happened on the plane to sit next to a former SARS colleague of mine, Tembisa. And Tembisa said to me, so what are you going to Joburg for? So I said, I'm going to present the clearing instruction. And it just came out. You don't normally admit to SARS when you don't know something. I just came out and I said, because people don't understand it very well, you know. And I thought, oh no, what did I just say? We're not supposed to appear not to know these things, you know. And she said, she shook her head and she said to me, Graeme, you know what? We don't understand it either. I thought, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Today is primarily the clearing instruction, and we'll be discussing all of this, the customs SOP, the new acts and the new rules, standard versus blanket instructions, and the contents of the instruction. I've given you some of these forms, but I haven't given you this one here, the customs procedure poster, because it is a simplified one and it's condensed and the writing is so fine, I'm going to have to email it to you. The complex version is 17 pages, so in any event I'm sending you the easier one. Then I'll just briefly, because it came by request, cover some of the new legislation, as well as, if you can just grab a copy here in the front of each, and the tire levy, which just got implemented on 1 February. The clearing instructions, and I always ask my staff, what is the most important thing when you start framing a bill of entry? When you pick up that file for the first time and you think about customs, what is the most important thing? And it is that purpose code. What is the purpose code? Who can tell me? Purpose code is the purpose of the entry, the purpose of the transaction, or the purpose of the shipment, DP for duty paid, IR for industrial rebate, WH for warehouse, and so forth, RIB for removal in bond. That's the purpose, because without knowing the purpose of this transaction, you're not going to know or understand what exactly needs to be done. Will there be bonded goods involved? Where's the destination of the goods? Is there going to be duty applicable? How is it going to be paid? And so on and so forth. So, in the new rules, which SARS recently, by the way, published, not 50 years ago when the legislation was created, they published it now, in the last year of its existence, the purpose of the transaction, and if known, the CPC, the Customs Procedure Code. We had a lot of SARS stops. Give us the CPC code. We had the purpose code, DP, or IR, WH. And then the guys had to go and get their client to fill out that CPC code. The rules don't say that. It says the purpose of the transaction and if known. In other words, the CPC code at this stage is not compulsory yet. But to save yourself time, to save your client some time, if the client has completed the CPC code, if they happen to know the CPC code, rather complete it, because you're just going to argue with the guys at SARS and it's not going to help you. So we completed. Destination, country, and a whole bunch of information that I'm going to get into more detail as we go through the session. At the end, over here, it says, insert the declaration as below. I, the name of the client, request DSV South Africa to clear and deliver these goods. And this passage over here, word for word and letter for letter, has to be on the clearing instruction. We've now done that. We've implemented it onto the clearing instruction because SARS was rejecting it. The officials were rejecting it, saying it doesn't follow word for word, letter for letter what the SARS SOP says. The Act and the rules go further to say the price paid or payable. SARS refers to this as the transaction value of the goods, the price actually paid or payable. Where do you get the price actually paid or payable? Commercial invoice. And or payable, what does that mean? Terms, 60 days, 90 days. It hasn't been paid, but it may become payable. Samples supplied free of charge. Replacement goods for defective stock. Stock that hasn't met quality standards, replacement stock. Short shipped goods that's now been supplied in lieu of the initial consignment. Quite often you're going to get this, or price paid or payable, where the client says, but why must I give you a value for the goods? I've imported it before and I paid my duties on that import shipment. Unfortunately, they have to be treated separately. SARS wants it to be treated separately. You've got to clear this new shipment, whether it's samples or defective stock replacement goods and so on and so forth. You've got to pay duty again. Unless you can prove that you previously imported it, maybe you qualify for a rebate. But the point is you still have to supply the price or the value of the goods, regardless. Then you may argue, but I'm getting the samples free of charge. Why must I pay duty on it? Why must I have a customer's value? Ultimately, even samples get used commercially in South Africa. There's an intention behind it. Everything's got a price, everything's got a value, and SARS doesn't want you to give a value that is just nominal. So if you import the cell phone, quite an expensive phone, at 100 Rand per unit, and you've got like 100 units in the shipment, I mean that's just ridiculous. That is circumventing duties and VAT. So you've got to have a price. Then the next question is, what about a pro forma invoice? Is a pro forma invoice acceptable? No. Anyone else? Some cases. I like no. I also like some cases.
It depends how you clear. Like if you get consignment stocks, you're going to have a pro forma until the final invoice comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And if you're getting goods free of charge and it's not going to be paid for, they don't issue a commercial invoice because it's not getting paid for. How do you issue a commercial invoice? The moment that supplier issues a commercial invoice, he's expecting a payment, so he's going to issue a pro forma instead. So what does SARS say? SARS says, yes, you're allowed to issue a pro forma invoice, but if you do, we will stop the shipment. So we like to tell our clients, no, because it's easier. But it's not necessarily the case, because some clients just will not get that commercial invoice. Not possible. So under those circumstances, we've got to know what the answer is. And the answer is, yes, you can supply a pro forma invoice, but make sure that there is a realistic value inserted onto that pro forma. So you might have a pro forma with a column on the right-hand side, zero value because there's no transaction taking place, but insert somewhere a clause, what the value is, and then it says, goods supplied free of charge, value for customs purposes only. Acceptable. Some customs officials will say, no, it's not acceptable. Then you need to have a debate about that. Samples supplied free of charge. But we're going to use the samples in South Africa and we're going to destroy the goods in South Africa during the sampling process. Why must I pay? Why must I pay? There's one exception to the rule, and in customs there's always an exception. If you look for it, you'll find it. I don't always want to accept it, but if you look for it, you'll find it. A sample can come in at a nominal value, an unrealistic value, if the product is destroyed or mutilated. So if you import a shoe, footwear, as a sample, you wouldn't normally input left and right at the same time. It'll be left or right. It's just a sample for show or for fitting. You take a drill and you drill a hole the size of a 50-cent coin through that shoe, it's mutilated. It's destroyed. Nobody wants to buy it from you. How can you sell it? Now you can insert a nominal value on your pro forma invoice or your commercial invoice. It's the only time you'll get away with it.